Go, this house of gold is crumbling. Bones, we scrape our bones and numb the pain. Love it just alone, love it just alone. Love it just alone.
Okay, we've now got Adam Gregory on the line talking about the Bloodstock Festival. Now that is 2 weeks to go. I mean, it seems to have come round awfully quickly.
It seems to do that every year. You know, it's we no sooner are we sort of picking up the litter in the fields and clearing the tents away. We're sort of planning the next one, and we're back in the arena ready to go again. So yeah, we'll be on site in a little over a week's time, starting the build. So yeah, looking forward to it.
And it's been a remarkably successful festival already on ticket sales. I mean, you were sold out of most weekend tickets months ago, weren't you?
It was actually 9 weeks after last year's show. We sold out of all weekend tickets, which was incredible. Saturday, Sunday tickets followed not long after, and there's only a handful of Fridays left. So yeah, it's fantastic. We're humbled. It's great. The support's there, but I think it's based on the lineup as well is superb again this year. Vicky and Sam done a great job there. So yeah, good. Looking forward to it.
Compromise won't get you nowhere. Arguments and pointless warfare. The price of love is the price of heartache. You took a knife pointing every mistake. Angels and devils cry, tears across the bridge of sides. These demons, addictions, chaos we've sown.
And you are one of the few festivals that I'm aware of, though this may not be. Obviously, you don't know what goes on in the background, but you will announce 2026's lineup on the Sunday of this year, won't you? So you're already a year ahead, planning-wise.
Well, we try and announce, to be fair, on the Friday each year, because that allows us to sort of, for those people that are on day tickets, if they want to grab a ticket for next year, they can. It's our 25th official anniversary next year in 2026, quarter of a century, which is a bit of a milestone for any event, really. And the plan is Vicky and Simon are going to be announcing at least 25 bands for next year, which is one of our biggest ever announcements for the following year, a year ahead. So yeah, looking forward to that. There's some absolute cracking bands to be announced.
This house of gold is crumbling. We scrape our bones and numb the pain. Surgical scalpels on and scratch skin from bone. Sweeping skin from bone. Love it to glory core.
Because I was going to say, the problem is presumably if you keep raising the bar with bands and with what the festival does, presumably that becomes self-defeating after a while, because it's almost impossible to keep raising the bar, isn't it? Or perhaps you do.
I think we're fortunate. Where we sit within the music genre of the bands that we have at Bloodstock, there's a huge pool. There's a lot of diversity out there, a lot of bands we can choose from. So it isn't necessarily about having bands you've not always had before. It's curating a lineup that's diverse and complete. So it's not just about the headliners, it's about all the bands that follow as well, that give a lot of variety and choice for the fans.
I wish you were dead inside of my head. A bunch of colored dust that slowly disappears. The curse in my breath spit out of the wind. If this is the end, you need to disappear.
Because you've always had metal to the masses and always championed the local band scene and things like that. I mean, is that something that is important to keep that grassroots level, giving them an option to play at a festival like this?
Absolutely critical. There's so many great bands out there, so many great aspiring musicians, emerging bands. Unfortunately, you look at your sort of televised events and they're all pop manufactured, and I hate to say it, a lot of the time garbage that people are told to sing a certain way, told to act a certain way and behave a certain way and have a certain style. I think the thing with metal to masses specifically is it's raw, it's real. The bands are exactly who they want to be and who they should be, and it's giving them a platform to sort of get in front of potentially, for a lot of these bands, the largest audience they've played to date. And the hope is that they take those opportunities and further their own careers and use this as a if you like, a stepping stone to the next level. This isn't the be all and end all. Bloodstock isn't oh great, we've made it. Absolutely not. You know, you've got yourself to a level that we're putting you in front of an audience. It's now down to the band to capture that opportunity and make it into something for themselves. So, you know, we want to find the next Maiden, Metallica, and you know, Sabbath and everybody else, and they're there. They just want that platform, and that's what we're trying to sort of support with.
And I noticed that the ever-changing vibe of festivals, in that it always amazes me that when you look at your ticket pricing and things like that, you know, you can go for glamping, you can go for VIP, you can go for rest in peace and off-site camping, and that's fantastic. It does tend to sort of sometimes double or triple the cost of your festival ticket. And I think, you know, when you're 20, how can you afford to do that? But I'm unfortunately thinking 30 years ago when people were in their 20s, and the same people are still coming to festivals now in their 50s with a disposable income and don't want to sleep in a wet soggy tent. I mean, is that something that you're conscious of? Is that the demographic, I suppose, is changing, and therefore what people want out of a festival is changing?
I think the demographic within metal is quite diverse. We've got a great age group from, you know, teenagers and early up to sort of, you know, dare I say it, OAPs and beyond. You know, it's a case, I think, that metal is timeless, and we've got to be able to offer, you know, the entry price that people can afford in a very, very challenging marketplace and economy as it is today. You know, our ticket prices are, we try and keep them as safe and stable as we can do. We have to put prices up occasionally, but we have a bit of a, I guess, a tug of war with our heartstrings, really, about putting the price up because we hate doing it. But, you know, over the last, since COVID, every year, the infrastructure costs, so just to put the festival on, have gone up roughly about 35% every year. We haven't done that with the ticket prices. So, you know, we're sort of trying to do everything we can do to minimize, you know, any increases. We're trying to keep the beer prices down because people are feeling it in the pockets. The glamping side of it, the VIP, it's not a case of, oh, you must have VIP and you know, you're doing it to make loads of money. There's a demand for it. People want it. You know, it sells out when we put it on sale. It generally tends to sell out. I mean, when I say within minutes, within 2 to 3 minutes, it's insane. So, you know, for us, we're only sort of fulfilling the demand, but what we won't do is we won't oversell it. We don't want it to be a VIP sort of over expensive experience. We still want to make sure the core fans are, you know, the fans that are real fans of music, and in all cases they don't have a disposable income, probably, like, you know, like you said yourself, when you get a little bit older, you've got some savings and you've had that chance to sort of curate that, and you want the refinement and a bit nicer of a experience. I think part of doing festivals is very much around the case of experiencing festivals as we did when we were 18, 19 and sleeping on a back somewhere in the middle of a field covered with beer cans and everything else. So, you know, I think it's important that experience is there for as many as possible, for as long as we can do it.
Call upon the wise one to remember the chords, the truth buried alive since the dawn of time. Was it all for nothing? Great watcher of the soul, rid the world of its blindfold, make us real again.
And do you notice then that because, you know, you've now got multiple ages, it's not just the 20 brackets, it's right across the board, that you'll get more families and you've got more kids and you've got grandparents down to grandkids turning up at the festival?
I think it's been relatively static, to be fair, over the last few years. We get a good variety of children coming, and it's great to see, because these are the next sort of set of fans coming through that are going to keep metal alive. You know, metal is one of the longest standing genres of music around. You know, and that's not by accident. That's because it's, to me, certainly the best one that's out there. I think, you know, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great music stars, of course there is, but I think you know, pop and things like that, people, they come and go, you know, and the audiences don't tend to change. You can sort of say, if you're going to go to a Take That concert, you could describe the demographic in you know, a couple of words. If you're going to go to a metal show or a rock show, that demographic is quite diverse and very wide ranging. So, again, proof in the pudding on that. The fans want it. The fans will keep listening to it. I've been listening to music, metal music for, oh God, since I was a teenager, and I've got no desire to tire of it. So, I'm hungry for what's next.
One of the things I also noticed that seems to have changed. At one stage, they used to open up the arena, and you would run down to get as close as you could to the front. Now they open up the arena, and you run down to get as close to the front so you can put your deck chair up. And that's not just people in my age range. That's the whole range. But I think that's something that has become an issue. And something are you trying to tackle this year? Because sometimes it is very congested, and chairs are sometimes quite a hazard when you're exiting a tent, into a line of chairs.
We've had to bring a chair ban to the festival this year in certain areas. There's obviously a need for people that do need to have a sit down and they can't stand for sort of extended periods of time. We fully understand that, but we've got to have certain areas of the site that are a void, if you like, of chairs, and certainly those areas tend to be in front of the main stage. Which, look, our audience they love the sort of the moshing, they love the wars of death, and they love all that sort of a hyperactivity of the crowd surfing. When you've got chairs sort of sitting in the middle of that then becomes a hazard. It's a trip hazard, it's a drop hazard. If and God forbid we had to do a site evacuation for any particular reason, same rules apply. You've got to be able to move clearly. We found last year chairs were becoming a problem. People were setting a row of sort of, let's say, 6-10 chairs up and then leaving them there while they went off to get a drink or get some food. We're not at the pool in sort of Mallorca or somewhere. This is a festival, and we've got to be mindful of that. So although we've got certain areas now where you can't have a chair, and that generally is directly in front of the stages, we do have chair areas that people can grab a seat. We've also brought in like a pavilion style seating deck that's sort of for 50 odd people that can utilize that if they need to have a seat. That's again outside of the crowd influx and allows them to sort of get a view of the stage as well. So we're doing what we can to sort of accommodate, but unfortunately we've had to bring that ban in. I mean, in Europe, there's some festivals you can't take a chair in full stop. And the reasons again are health and safety. I went to a festival, it wasn't Metal Festival, it was another festival back in June. I didn't see anybody actually standing, and it wasn't that type of show, and it was like, wow, this is just getting too much, I think. And when you've got a busy crowd and you've sold out and you've got to make sure there's enough room for people, chairs, one chair will take up the room of 2 people generally. So yeah, you've got to make those decisions for the right reasons, although they're not always popular with everybody.
If I could sing one last song before the world ends, if I could sing one last song to say goodbye, if I could sing one last song to all my children, if I could sing one last song before we die.
And do you find, I mean, obviously bands specifically within any genre of music, but within metal where they're sending out a lot of messages and feel the right to be able to express their views and opinion. I mean, this year we've had a lot of around Glastonbury and political comments made by bands. I think the Radar Festival got a lot of flack for some of their decisions to pull Bob Vylan, which I think was there was a lot happening behind the scenes a lot of people weren't aware of. And is that something that given the political climate that we are in, that you are conscious of or worry about organising a festival as to what the consequences of some of these actions might be?
It's a tough one. I mean, in the Radar situation, I guess, they had their hands tied behind the back. It was nothing to do with the organisers, nothing they could do about it. And it was a crap situation to sort of be put in, for any event. So, we feel for those guys, and I think they got a raw end of the deal from the band and also from the crowd as well, without knowing all the facts. It's not for us to mute an opinion of a band. If they want something to say, they're up there for the 30, 60, 90 minutes, however far they're up there for. The hope is that they'll take that opportunity to sort of broadcast and showcase the music, which is what ultimately they've been booked to do. The world's a crazy, weird place at the moment. People have got opinions on things, but where one person has an opinion on something in a positive way, equally there's as many people have the same opinion on a negative way. So it's always going to be controversial, I think, when people do sort of use that platform as a bit of a soapbox to voice an opinion, as popular or as unpopular as it may be. Personally, I think bands should go up there and give the fans what they've paid to see, and that's their performance of their art. But again, it's not for us to mute anybody if they've got an opinion on something. It's their platform, it's their space, it's their time. Do we pull the plug on something like that? Again, it depends on what's being said. If someone's being, racist or sexist or anything else like that, then of course, we'd sort of cut the mic or whatever we have to do if we had to. But where do you draw the line? It's a difficult one. We just live in very strange, tough times, and I think we just need to all be mindful of what we're supposed to be doing, when we're supposed to be doing it.
A song about love, a song about death, with desperation in my breath. I scream in the silence, massive and violence. Hear my voice for Ryan Laws, singing for my broken walls. One last song, one last song.
And obviously, you say you've got your lineup, which is a great lineup this year. Trivium, Machine Head, Gojira headlining, but it isn't all just about the bands. I mean, Bloodstock always has a whole host of acts throwing, wrestlers. I mean, you varied it on different years. What other things are happening at the festival for people to enjoy other than just the music, I suppose?
Yeah, well, we've got the exhibition again in the gallery, which is a purpose-built, full structure that's solid floors and proper walls and professional lighting in there, so that's got a lot of great stuff this year. We haven't got the fairground this year because we thought we're going to give it a break, only because it tends to have a lot of crossover musically with the Sophie stage and the sort of closer stages. So we wanted to rest it this year and try something different. We've got Ollie Eats doing some food competitions across the weekend, and working with Spudman and some other great vendors as well. We've got the Vikings doing some battles. We've got movies on the Wednesday night in Midgard campsite. Rockfit each morning, get everybody started and geared up, and along with some special Bloodstock coffee that we've actually had done this year as well for those coffee lovers and connoisseurs. So, there's plenty to do, plenty to see. The new blood bands this year, the quality is absolutely through the roof. Again, it just gets better and better every year. So, you won't have time to really sit and worry about what we're going to do today. I think there's plenty to choose from for everybody, really.
And you mentioned the art exhibition that is always there, which is almost unique, I think, at festivals, and is a fantastic display of album covers and guitars and things like that. And last year you had the bust of Lemmy with his ashes in, that I think went then off to Rock City. Is that returning again this year?
Yeah, the bust comes back every year. Rock City is if you like, his sort of annual resting place throughout the year, but his spiritual home is at the festival. So we'll be collecting that from Rock City in a couple of weeks' time and bring it to the festival and making sure it's on display for anybody that's not either been to Burslem or in Stoke or to Rock City to sort of pay tribute and pay honour to a great guy. So there's going to be plenty for people to see, and I think that, like you said, the gallery is something special because Paul, my dad, who curates that each year, does try to bring in difference and something unique and something different. So he's got a few surprises, I think, this year coming with some special stuff he's had built.
It's easy to be right when everything repeats. It's easier to cut us down and point our defeat. It's easy to be right when everything repeats. Dig below the surface, find your insecurities. Tell me, maybe you were right, maybe I was wrong, but I've been silent for far too long. Maybe you were right, maybe I should go, but I've been silent for far too long. What will it take to rip the heart from your hate? What will it take? What will it take to rip the heart from your hate?
And I suppose this is going to be a difficult question for you, but any particular highlights of yourself that you're looking forward to see, or some bands that we must see this year when we're there?
To be honest, there's so much quality this year, again on the band. And, it's the same every year. I'm never going to cry away from a previous year being better than the last or whatever, but it's a personal choice when it comes to music. And I think, certainly for the bands this year, the quality is definitely up there. We've got a big announcement on the Friday night for 26, with it being our 25th anniversary next year, of course. So obviously there's going to be 25 bands that we're announcing on Friday night. But outside of that, my biggest sort of takeaway is and favorite time of the year, or favorite time of the festival, is just going up on stage and just seeing the crowd. I love to sort of take a walk up there late in the afternoon and just see a sea of people having the best of times. And that to me is probably the standout moment of the event, because it's something that you can walk away thinking you've been part of something that's creating memories and joy and experiences for so many people, especially when it's their first ever show or festival they've been to. So to be part of that, I think truly is something a bit unique.
What will it take to rip the heart from your hate?